Let's take a look at the amplifiers that are going to be powering this system. The first one is our DSP amplifier, which is the Helix V8 DSP Mark II. This amplifier is 8 channels with integrated 10 channels of DSP, so this is an 8 to 10, up to 160 watts of output per channel into 2 ohms, advanced 32-bit co-processor platform for system and DSP features like signal input analysis, sound effects, stage expander, real center, high power 8 channel, high level inputs with up to 32 volts of input sensitivity in the ADEP.3 circuit, 1-to-1 output routing, virtual channels, and an optional input for an expansion card. Again, really nice box on this install. Apparently lots of really nice boxes. Owner's manual with a lot of information. It is in multiple languages. Top piece of foam. This uses the older style USB. They give you a cable, which is nice. We'll leave this plugged in. Some Allen keys, some screws, some jumpers, then the amplifier itself, which is not really big. Leave all the paperwork and the USB in it for now. On the back side of the box, before we take a look at the sides of the amplifier, 4 ohm, 75 watts per channel. 2 ohms, it's 120 watts per channel. Maximum power is 160 watts per channel. This is a pure class GD amplifier. It has 6 RCA inputs, 8 high-level speaker inputs, 1 optical in, and 1 remote in. Input sensitivity is 4 volts to 8 volts. On the RCA side, we'll be using the high level, which is 0.16 volts to 32 volts. Output wise, we have 8 speaker outputs, 2 RCA, and 2 remote outs. Output voltage is 3 volts. Frequency response is 20 to 22,000. The DSP is 64-bit, and the dimensions are 1.73 by the wider side here, which is 8.66 by 7.09. And of course, they have a bunch of cool little icons here that all mean something. But let's take a look at the amplifier itself. On the power side, we have outputs 1 through 4 are here, outputs 5 through 8 are here. Our RCA is located right here in the middle, next to our 4-gauge power and ground, and our remote in. This does have DC offset input, so you do not need to run one. It will auto sense itself. And then your remote outs are located right here with this little wire. It's nice that they've located these next to themselves so that this will easily go off to our sub amp. Flipping it over to the input side, USB optional controller. There's a push button here with control status, your optical input, 6 RC inputs, 8 high level inputs. And then there is a gain here. However, the gain can be adjusted through the software, negating the need to adjust that. This will be powering all of our speakers with the exception of the subwoofer. For that, if we can make it fit, will be the D1. This is a 1-channel subwoofer amplifier with integrated active crossover and 1 ohm capability. It has 2-channel high and low level inputs. It has the smart input with ADEP circuit, advanced diagnostic error protection, and auto turn on functions. On the back of here, it gives us our power rating. At 4 ohms is 120, at 2 ohms is 340, and at 1 ohm is 530. Maximum power output is 645 at 4 ohm and 110 at 2 ohm. Class D amplifier. Let's open it up and take a look at this guy. Owner's manual, the amplifier itself, and over here on the side is a little box. It has Allen keys and fuses and screws, along with the bass knob that I'll be taking out so we don't forget to install that. The bass knob does have phono clips on either end, which is really nice. However, the bass knob does not look like the type that can be disassembled, meaning it is going to have to stay in this little box, which is kind of a bummer. This one cannot be drilled into place. It's just using one of their non-screw-in types. Put this back in the box for right now. We'll keep the cable out. So this is the D1. Compare it in size to the 8. It is substantially bigger. I was thinking it was smaller. In the picture it looked smaller. I didn't look at the measurements. That's my bad. I wanted the Helix whole jive thing to work, to match. That's what we ended up with. Let's take a closer look at the amplifier side. Dual positive, dual negative, outputs, protection light, 230 amp fuses, 4 gauge input, remote. Flipping it over to the other side, the RCA inputs, the high level input level control, phase shift, bass boost, subsonic filter, low pass crossover between 50 and 250, and a master slave switch with a single RC output, and of course the input for the remote turn on. Take a look at the owner's manual. Get to the English portion of it. So the phase shift is a true phase shift between 0 and 180. Bass boost is 0 to 12 dB. However, let me see if I can figure out. Yeah, the center frequency is 45 hertz. The subsonic filter is adjusted between 10 to 50. So those were the two things I was curious about with the owner's manual. Two screws ought to hold it enough to get it into the car. Let's go give it a go. So it fits, and there's this gap here. That's what I'm hoping for, is that it'll fit between here and here. I can put that amplifier in this space. The panel gets on. Nothing in the way here. The cigarette lighter and the light. So the way this amplifier sits, RCA's, all the power is on the top, which is nice, and speaker wires would be on the bottom, so there won't be anything sticking out too far on the bottom side, which is why I'm hoping this will work. I feel like I can get it to work. Let's head over to the bench and come up with some ideas to suspend this here so that I can test fit it. This is how I need them to sit. There's a line here on the bottom of the amplifier. When I was test fitting it, that was my gauge to how far over I needed this to go. Now that I'm sitting here looking at it, because the screws go all the way down into the side of this, which I did add the other 2 screws that I hadn't put in since I know that this is going to stay. But what I'm looking at is how I'm going to attach this onto this, and I was coming up with a whole bunch of like very complicated things, and then I was like, wait a minute, I have these ridges right here. I can just cut a simple piece of plastic that's this size and use these as my screw down points, so I can just put bolts on the back side of these, put some screws in it, and this will attach right to here. And then for venting, I can cut out the center of here so that it's just not one giant piece of plastic attached to it. I think that sounds like definitely a pretty good idea. We'll go all the way out. We'll have some hangover on this side just a little bit. So let's say 10 3/4 by 9 1/8. Here is the panel we came up with. Like I said, I removed all this area here just so we could have air underneath it. Added 4 thermal certs into plastic. That is these guys right here. They heat up, they can be melted in nice and flush on the backside, so I can put an M4 screw into it, which is where we're at right now. That is mocking it up to see how it all fits. That'll be our amplifier mount there. Nice and flat on that side. Trimmed off any of the excess plastic that was sticking down. And then this is our amp. Should fit just like that. I had to take this amp off of our mount so that we could get the holes lined up properly. Now I would love to have like just a small space between, so it's not totally flat on it, but for right now I just want to make sure that it works. I have these little square bolts that I've been trying to find are easy to use, and I think on this it is going to be perfect for that. And just like before, I'll just put the 2 screws in just so we can see if this all is going to fit. It's kind of thick. Let's get it over in the car. So as much as I'd love it to be perfect the first time, and it's actually really good, and I could probably leave it like this, but I have a few ideas now that I've done this. But there are a couple things that need to change regardless of how I end up doing it. First off is the top corner of the amplifier rack here needs to be removed. You can see it sticking out right here, which means it's not actually in the way, but it's gonna be in the way. So I'm just gonna remove that whole corner because it's not really doing anything anyways. But what I'd like to do is bring the amplifier out just a little bit more and like make it shift over and down maybe 1/4 of an inch and down 1/4 of an inch. It doesn't seem like much, I know. And it's probably the amount of work it's gonna take to do it is ridiculous. But I would like to do it so that I could get that amp off of the other amp just a little bit more. And that's really gonna be the only way I can do it. Otherwise, it's a great idea. It's gonna work fine. Finding it a little bit now to where it makes me totally happy. Let's go back over to the bench and make a couple adjustments. There we go. That is how those are gonna sit. Before I put this back in the car for the final test fit and figure out how I'm gonna drill this to get it to screw into place, I also wanna figure out what I want to do for power distribution, so I kind of get an idea of where that needs to go. My thought is I should probably go low with it. That way I can bring all my signal across the top. And for power distribution, I'm going to use this guy right here, which is the VFDB2 from T-Spec. Always open these things from the bottom. Don't try to pry this up. That's just silly. Little piece of tape, opens right up, comes right out. That way if you need to put it back in, you can. This is a 1 power wire in, 2 power wire out fuse holder. And the reason why I'm just doing fuse distribution as opposed to power and fuse distribution is there's a factory ground point located right here. And I feel that would be 2 really nice short runs of ground over to that spot as opposed to bringing them all the way over here and then all the way back. Seems like a lot of excess. Whereas I can put this little guy somewhere like here, somewhere like there, probably somewhere about there. Nice power run over here, nice power run up to there. Keep it nice and simple. All right, let's get over into the car and do one more test fit.